There we go. All right, talk amongst yourselves. How
Hello?
bad was it? Was
Yeah,
like
so
who?
the non sequitur show had um, an individual who has been writing a book for I think what 9 years now. He's been slowly developing it. Uh, and so the non sequitur show is run by Steve McRae and Kyle. It's a good show. It's actually a pretty decent show. And I think it was an excellent idea to get uh, three scholars. I think one didn't make it. So one particular scholar in Mesopotamian um, research and another scholar in Egyptology to analyze the claims of this individual. And basically, the claims is that when you look at starting with Genesis 12, um, the story of Abraham, the introduction of Abraham with Yahweh, and that how the whole story plays out, where Yahweh wants a particular heir of Abraham to work with the land of Canaan, because as you know, the story develops into Yahweh wanting to occupy a particular real estate that will then become Israel, and on it goes. If we take Yahweh to be a human king, nothing more than that, like if you just pretend it's a human king. Maybe, and in his book he says Hammurabi. If you have Hammurabi as that person, then the story makes even more sense because Hammurabi then goes and has sex with Sarah to produce Isaac,
Wait, wait, wait,
and
wait.
and all that stuff.
You lost. You lost me at. So pretend Yahweh is a human.
Yeah, so Yahweh, the character Yahweh in the Genesis text, it originally it makes more sense to think of that character as a human being,
Okay.
not a god, or in this case, a divinized human king. So like a human king that when you're talking about deification and in the ancient Near East, human kings can there's a blurring that takes place in that context. And but you see, one of the scholars on the panel, Josh, brilliantly uh, went head on against that by arguing that look in the text itself, when for example Psalm 2 or another Psalm, I think it's Psalm 48, where it talks about either Psalm 48 or Psalm somewhere in the 40s that there's a Psalm that has God, even your God, sit on this throne or something like that, which the author of Hebrews quotes and applies it to Jesus. But in the original Psalm context, scholars are divided on how you translate that passage because it could mean the Davidic king or the king of Israel would be a divinized Elohim. I know that there's one particular scholar that actually says no, that verse can be read the God and your God's throne or something, basically emphasizing that the human subject is not divinized. But either way, the point is when you go back to Genesis 12 onwards, um, divinized king methods, like how a king would perform, act, speak. You don't see the Hebrew text having Yahweh do those functions, and that's a brilliant analysis of the claim. So what pisses me off is that even though these really on point criticisms were made, he's still hailed as some great thinker. Like as if this is like a grand hypothesis that's been developed and further peer reviews needed. And no, it's ridiculous. Especially, for example, um, he wanted to say that Sarah's age of 90 is the sexagesimal age, meaning it's base 60. So then you do this quote unquote conversion factor that he makes up, where you times 90 by 0.6. How he gets 0.6, I don't know. That if you're going to work from base 60 to base 10, that is not what you do. If you're going to convert base 60, which is the 90 figure, if you're going to take that as a base 60 and you convert it down to a decimal figure, which is base 10, the number system you and I work with, it becomes 540, not 54. So he's wrong on that point. And so when I brought that up, I mistyped in my keyboard, I mistyped it as 570 because the 7 and the 4 are, the 7 is above the 4, the number 4 key. And so they thought that I made it because Steve McRae was reading up my question. And because the chat is moving up so quickly, I try to correct myself. But anyway, they thought I made a simple math error because, what's 9 times 6? It's not 57. But they took that and then dismissed my argument. But either way, the point is it's not 54. It's 540. So yeah, anyway, that's pretty much what happened in the Hangout.
So, okay.
I don't know if you guys were seeing the live Hangout as well.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that in the chat, and I was trying to figure out what you were really saying. How that actually works out. What I don't understand is, are you arguing that it can't be converted, or is it just not converting right?
No. This particular guy, this Bernard, he's saying that 90 is too old to have a child. Therefore, I'm going to presuppose the figure there, 90, is a sexagesimal number, meaning you work it in base 60. And therefore, I'm going to. He did it really ridiculously. He's like, oh, let's pretend there's a base. I think either he or someone in the chat said pretend there's a base 100, and then you have a difference between 100 and 60. Therefore, it's 60 on 100, which is 6 on 10, which is obviously 0.6, and then you just times the two numbers together. I'm sorry, that is so stupid. Base conversions don't work like that. And I can't believe that was just left, like that was just allowed to follow through. I mean, Steve McRae, who's on that panel, would be the only one that would be proficient in the math. To be honest, I think he was too confused with everything else, so he didn't really see that as an important point. But if I was on that panel, I would have pressed him on that point. That if you're going to say Sarah's actual age is 54, I'm sorry. If you do it, if you want to say it's base 60, if you want to say 90 is base 60, and then you convert it to base 10, do it properly, because the proper method shows it should be 540, not 54. And so therefore, you're basically then saying that her actual age is 540 years. And obviously that's ridiculous, because now you've increased her age. So it's just, I don't know. And then when he connects Islam to it, like,
oh boy.
Yeah, that was a little far-fetched.
Like I was just like, you've got to be kidding me, because in the Quran, in Surah 37, it's the first and foremost, the sun is not named. That's the first and foremost point. Secondly, pre-Islamic Arabs were conjecturing about, and this is like offshoot tribes were conjecturing that since Ishmael's the father and so on, that he's the one that was sacrificed. That was when you speak to Muslims. Like I know I've interacted with Muslims. I've read that. I've gone into the Quran and so on quite intensely, and that whole Ishmaelite tradition is, to be honest, fascinating and at the same time quite convoluted. So, for example, you have Taberi, an Islamic scholar, arguing that it's Isaac that's killed, not Ishmael, or sorry, about to be sacrificed, not killed. So that blows away his theory that but look, Islam, which would have been 600 years after Christianity, by the way. So he's importing an idea that comes thousands of years later and saying that that's what the Genesis author is thinking, and that somehow the Islamic guys got it right. Sorry, but when you
Oh
go
man,
back to when you go to the Islamic tradition, you have Muslims saying it's Isaac. The Quran is silent on the son. It doesn't say Ishmael. It doesn't say Isaac. It just says Abraham's son. And if you're going to import Islam, if you're going to calibrate Islam, the Islamic tradition, then calibrate it with Abraham building the Kaaba with Ishmael. I mean, you can't just, cherry pick. Oh yeah, I'm going to have Ishmael in this loose tradition being the one that's getting sacrificed from Abraham, and then connect it somehow to Hammurabi or some, human king that in this case is Allah or Yahweh, one of the two. And then basically Hammurabi or that human king is the one that wants the Kaaba built. I mean, it's so. I mean, what I'm doing in that context, I'm taking his hypothesis and applying it to Islam in a fuller context. That's literally what you'd have to argue. That if his thesis is correct, then even the Muslims missed out on that very valid point. That, oh, by the way, Allah is Hammurabi, and the Kaaba was built for Hammurabi. Because you're equating Allah with Hammurabi in that context. It's just so stupid. I can't believe that entire Hangout was allowed to just like a free pass. Like, this is brilliant stuff. It's I just can't believe it.
Huh. I honestly didn't know what to think about that.
I didn't know what they were arguing for or about. It was just above my pay grade.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the original Hangout that they had when they interviewed Bernard a couple of weeks prior, and I actually made a post in the Naked Bible group that this particular thing needs to be addressed. So
where is that Naked Bible group? I'm not sure where
it's on Facebook.
Oh, okay. Simple enough.
Nah, Jen, I had a friend who she had a really good question. She said she was thinking about Islam and how Islam offers men who go to heaven virgins and stuff like that. And she said, what does Islam have to offer to women as far as the afterlife? And I couldn't answer. I don't know.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good question. I'm drawing a blank, but as far as I know, whenever women are described about their function in the afterlife, I don't want to conjecture and say that women are the function of being the sex partner, like specifically that's their function, to be the sex partner of the men. What I can say is the men, like I remember seeing an imam give a sermon in a mosque, and it was translated, and he said that when you do the math, like when you take the 70 versions and then you apparently each virgin, like it's not 70 at once, it's like 70 that accumulates over time. And so when you do it like in a fractal sense, mathematically, it turns out that you'll be getting in the tens of thousands, you know, because each virgin, say the average lifespan on Earth is like 70 years, then when 70 years is up in heaven, then you get another virgin and then another virgin, on it goes. And but then you're multiplying, basically they're perpetually virgins. They never lose their virginity, and then somehow you're gaining women and I don't know how that works, but you're gaining women at the same time. Now, but that's for the men though. But for women, all I know is that the Hadith says that in hell there's more women in hell than men. That's as far as I know. But as far as like what rewards do they get? That's something that I don't think I've looked into too much, and maybe it's because I haven't seen um, any positive, remarks about women in heaven, if in an Islamic context.
And I did tell her also, doesn't isn't it the Quran where it talks about how only people of a lighter skin tone get to go into heaven, but people of a darker skin tone don't make the cut.
I again, I know that the Quran and the Hadith are basically Islamic tradition is racist in that sense, but I wouldn't say skin color is a deciding factor. It's all about your allegiance to Muhammad and Allah. But yeah, the Hadith is clear that if you say that the Prophet is black, kill him. And anything that is black in this life, for example, they mention like a pure black dog, like jet black. Kill the kill that dog because the blackness attracts demons and jinns and stuff like that. So anything that's non-black is clean, and anything that's black is unclean. And then that you know spreads itself out into the human context because now you're talking about, well, now I'm coming across black humans, and what does that mean? And that's where the racism, creeps in. Um, but there are instances where you have black people in the Hadith that become Muslim and are then seen favorably, like they can go to heaven. But
Mm.
otherwise, black people are seen as. In fact, okay, let me put it this way: there's one Hadith that where Muhammad says, "See this black man here," and I forget his name. They actually mention his name. If you want to know what Satan looks like, look at this black man. That's literally
Wow.
what Muhammad said. So, but yeah, I wouldn't say that Islamic tradition says that if you're black, you're not saved. I'm pretty sure there's instances where a black person is quote unquote saved in that theology, but that doesn't mean that they didn't see black people as like, if you want to see what Satan looks like, well, look at this black man. Yeah, I just typed in Google, what is there for women in paradise? And
Yeah, I
the
found something
question,
cool.
yeah, do you want to say anything on that?
Well, I don't have a lot of background in this, but I was reading while you guys were talking about that. Uh, it's just a Google web search, nothing like there's no study
Yeah.
on it, but just said it's very convoluted and very. It basically says, in a weird way, that women should have the same as men when they die. I'm not totally convinced that that's actually what he's saying, but that's what I'm gathering.
Yeah. It says here. Oh my gosh. Okay, I might as well just read it out. We're going into R-rated stuff. The evidence that
Oh,
women are included in verses of the Quran in the male gender is hadith by Aisha, who said that the Prophet was asked about a man who sees traces of semen but does not remember having any dream of sexual nature.
Yeah, that's
The
actually what I
Prophet,
did too.
yeah. Yeah, so this is islamqa.com. The Prophet said, quote, such man should perform the ritual ablution. So again, any form of like this, you see this in the Levitical law that any liquid fluids or liquids that come out of your body, it can make you unclean, so you need to do some ablutions, clean yourself. So he was also asked of a man who remembers a dream of sexual nature but sees no trace of semen. He said such man does not have to perform the ritual ablution. Salim said, quote, a woman may have the same experience. Does she have to perform the ritual ablution? The Prophet said, yes, there is no difference in this between man and woman. Okay, so that is true. But what this person's not saying, like just to caveat this first point, is that I can actually show you what women can do before the ablution takes place in a sexual context. And I remember I showed this to Wayne some time back that women, it's described in the Islamic literature that women, if they don't have a man in a sexual context, that they can use animal genitalia to masturbate with. So and if once they're done with that, then you do your ablutions and that stuff. Um, I'm not kidding. So then he says, with respect to rewards in the hereafter and what women have in heaven, we include a number of verses and hadiths. Let's see if I could skim read down. All men and women will have the just reward for their deeds. And so then I think so Ibn Kathir. Okay, Ibn Kathir is the one saying this. The verse means you will be treated equally with respect to rewards. If any do deeds of righteousness, be they male or female, and have faith, they'll enter heaven. So Ibn Kathir is a prominent person to look to. So they're going on about the deeds part, but what do they actually get?
Right, that's where I got hung up on. Is like
Yeah.
they don't really specifically say anything.
So Umara al-Ansariya said that she went to the Prophet. Oh, so he's saying, dear sister, here's a hadith that will dispel any doubt you may have with respect to the mentioning of women. And so this person said that she went to the Prophet and said to him, quote, I feel that everything is for men. Well, there you go. You can psychologize that, can't you? Everything's for men. Women are not mentioned as having anything. Then was revealed verse for Muslim men and women, for believing men and women, etc. In the no, he just stops there. He doesn't really say anything. So let's see. Okay. So he finishes by saying, in the collection of hadiths of Imam Ahmad, who's narrated the hadith that Salama said, quote, I said, O Messenger of Allah, why aren't we mentioned in the Quran in an equal footing with men? And that's true. In the Quran, women are half the intelligence of man.
Right.
And in one particular surah, it says that a woman is dirtier than dirt. I'm not kidding. It that surah basically says, if a man is on his way to go and pray, and there are three things that may happen to him on his way, right, to go and pray. One of those three things is that if a woman touches him, and it depends on scholars are debate on how to translate or how to interpret the word touch, the Arabic for touch. Touch, does it mean sexually, or does it mean a mere like a like a hand, like your hand happens to just make contact with his hand or something like that. Either way, the point is that if he touches a woman, like let's go the most radical route, like his hand or his arm or his face or somehow they somehow like brush against each other. They don't. It's nothing sexual.
They just have. Yeah.
Yeah, in a spiritual context, he's now unclean. So then the surah says he must go and wash his face and wash himself so that he's clean to then go and pray. But if he doesn't find water, and I kid you not, this is what the surah says. If he doesn't find water, he must go and clean himself with clean dirt.
Clean dirt? How
Yes,
do you
good dirt, clean dirt. So, and then once you've done that, like literally wash your face and wash your hands with supposedly clean dirt, then you're clean. So what does that tell you? That means just a mere touch of a woman is so unclean that I can get clean by using dirt. So that means dirt is cleaner than women.
Wow.
It's ridiculous.
I've heard that argument in a different context, just like an in passing of discussion. I haven't heard anything in detail like you just mentioned. So
yeah, no, it's in the Quran. Let me just find I'll open the
Okay.
Quran right now.
Well, yeah,
I'll
yeah,
get
yeah. But like that's what I was
for the sake
I
of
was
the
told.
recording, like yeah.
So that
So
last line before the let's see. Okay, that last paragraph in the collection of the hadiths of Imam, the last sentence, for men and women who guard their chastity, and for men and women who engage much in Allah's remembrance, for them has Allah prepared for forgiveness and great reward.
and so the great reward there is, what
So
is that great reward? For men, it's sensual
help
stuff.
me unpack that. And
Yeah,
for men and women who engage much in Allah's remembrance, for them has Allah prepared forgiveness and great reward. So he's just contradicting himself then.
yeah. So for men and women who humble themselves, so he revealed that. This is it's a massive. Actually, this I think it could be a massive like um, like a commentary. Actually, not even a hadith, because it says here, I wrapped it up and came close to the door and stood there listening to him say, quote, Allah Almighty and Sublime, be He, revealed that, and then parentheses, like brackets. So for Muslim men and women, and I don't know if this one is part of the hadith or just commentary. Let me just search this. It seems it's part of the hadith from the looks of it. So for Muslim men and women, for believing men and women, for devout men and women, for true men and women, for women who are patient and constant, for men and women who are humble, who humble themselves, for men and women who give in charity, who fast, who guard their chastity. Um, Now that's an interesting phrase, who guard their chastity, because many times in the Quran that would be contradictory. And for men and women who engage much in Allah's remembrance for them, um, has Allah prepared forgiveness and great reward. So, out of all this, what is the question is, what is that great reward? It
Exactly.
literally comes down to that. For men, the great reward is complete sensual, like fulfilling your lust to the nth degree. Therefore, uh, since and so this is why the question is so good, because I didn't think of it that way, because I guess I didn't come across women in that way. That women would have their equivalent of a sensual reward or something like that. But apparently, according to this hadith, women will have an equal reward, which means
70, right?
70 male virgins or something like that. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
But will they perpetually remain virgins, though?
Yeah, but how does that work for a man? Yeah. Oh my gosh.
It seems like that reward is like somewhat lessened for women.
Yeah, it's like who's the one maintaining the virginity? Is it because if it's a woman receiving the man, like how does that work? Like is she a perpetual virgin?
Well, well, she goes and finds animals to.
Oh my gosh. I can show you that stuff is nasty. Like you won't believe what's actually in that text.
Oh, I can imagine.
Um,
I
it's
that's a
by
dark.
the way, the dirt claim is in Surah 4. Surah 4, the ayah 43. That one ayah, one verse.
43, right?
Yes, it's chapter 4, verse 43. Just read that out. Like if anyone here has a Quran open, read it out. I can read my translation out if you want.
All right, here. This is Sahih International.
Yep.
O you who have believed, do not approach prayer while you are intoxicated until you know what you are saying, or in a state of janaba. Is that how you pronounce it? Janaba?
Basically, sexual orgasm.
Oh.
Yeah.
Except those passing through a place of prayer until you have washed your whole body. And if you are ill or on a journey, or one of you comes from the place of relieving himself, or you have contacted women and find no
Yep.
one.
So that's the part. So you've touched the women. What does
Right.
it mean? Like, is it touching them, like hugging? In Islam, to be honest, I don't think there is such a thing as hugging. But either way, you touched a woman, like skin on skin contact. No matter how radical you want to look at it, like whether it's sexual or whether it's just a mere skin on skin touch.
So I wonder what the actual Arabic word for contact. Would that,
That's all it means, just touch. But you see, that's where in what context then? And so then the context has that wide range. Like it's like it could have been him full on body touching, or it could have been a mere finger, or a hand brushing against his arm or something. And so if you've touched the woman, and if you did not find water, and how does the Sahih say it?
then seek clean earth and wipe over your faces and your hands.
With clean earth, right?
Earth, yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the question: how do you get clean earth? Just pick it up off the
So
ground?
stupid.
Oh man.
I mean, the only way I could think of that is like sand or something, but is that not? Is that? I doubt that's the word.
Well, okay. So the contrary is, what is dirty earth?
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know. Dirt.
Yeah.
Huh. Hey, General.
Yep.
About halfway through your videos on that 4-day debate, I just got through your first response, or your first.
Oh yeah, the nose flood stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So I watched each of you guys' opening statements, and I've read all of your articles. By chance, do you have any of their articles?
Yes. Yep. I have their articles. I can get them right now. Actually, oh boy. I left the group. Let me see if I can access their articles. One sec. No, I think I saved their articles on my Google Drive. Let me just see. Yes, I did. Okay. Let me just upload them right now. Okay, so that's good.
All right, I'm
That's
looking
good. I
for it.
saved that.
That Gnostic thing was hilarious, by the way.
What?
What?
What Gnostic thing?
Oh, when Jen accuses Joel of being a Gnostic.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Basically, that is Genesis History wrote a blog saying that Walton is a Gnostic. Oh my gosh. It's just the insanity.
Okay, I found.
I'm losing my decorum is becoming, like, you guys can tell I'm kind of pissed off.
Yeah,
Like,
I know. That's my next question: is how do you stay calm in all of this?
well, I'm like a slow kettle. Only you're seeing me when I'm about to blow my top, so it's taken a while to reach to this level.
Okay, I found the group, but I found day 4. Where were all the things
Oh no,
posted?
no, I'm uploading. I'm putting it in the
Drive?
in the drive right now. So
Okay.
I'll put the link in my news flood folder right now, and it'll be uploaded in like 30 seconds. So yeah.
Have you been keeping up with the free articles on Braille that Heiser posted back in January, I think? So he posted an article for Braille's Dead Sea Scrolls, and
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. The free, yeah, that was really released. Yeah.
have you been keeping up with those, or?
Yeah, it's books that's already been released, like on Logos.
Oh,
If it's
really?
if anyone that needs it. Yeah.
So I've been downloading them, but I haven't had a chance to read them yet.
By the way, I just posted in the chat, in the Matt Powell chat. See if it opens and go to. There's a folder within this folder called Nose Flood Debate.
Yeah.
Open that one, and you'll see all of them in there.
2,
Yeah.
3, 4, 5, 6,
Row.
12. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep, seen 4 of each.
All right. So what's your thoughts then?
Well, how do How do you keep calm with Jin accusing you or not understanding base 60?
Yeah, what I found hilarious was actually the closing, the fourth paper I wrote was when I actually tackled, when you have folding and intense pressures, and like say the the rate of the water rising, which would be like 112 feet per no 112 centimeters per second. I think is what the figure I calculated. Or was it 0.04 centimeters per second? Oh, yeah, that's right. 112 feet per day. Yeah, that's right. To then so to cover the entire world in 150 days, the rate of rising the water would have to be 112 feet per day. But a typical tsunami, which is what she's thinking the flood would have been anyway, right? Because she's saying like she's saying the Earth originally was Pangea, and then Noah's flood took place, and so Noah's flood would have caused Pangea and the plates to separate and so on. Well, if you're going to say that, the amount of force is so ridiculous, you're going to fry the planet. But let's pretend the planet doesn't fry. That means the rate by which the plates move apart and the rate of the way the waters will move will be way beyond the speed of, say, the Japanese tsunami. And you're talking hundreds of thousands of feet per day um, at a rate of speed compared to a mere 100 feet per day, which would be using the timing that's given in the Genesis passage. So 100 feet per day is too slow to move anything.
Yeah, even
and yeah, even a grain of sand. And and that I found that so funny because I was predicting that she would tackle it somehow, like maybe, because I kept pressing her on the whole science for like the first three. So the opening, she didn't mention anything scientific, and the first two rebuttals, she didn't mention anything. So I was predicting, okay, I know she's going to tackle the science on the third rebuttal and conclusion. What, but what would she mention? Because I've tackled literally everything else. So I wanted to play around with a hypothetical. What would a global flood look like, and how would it operate physically? And yeah, interestingly, that actually responds to every claim she makes in her conclusion.
And what I noticed,
So yeah,
what I really appreciated about yours was, well, there's two things I really appreciated about your presentation. One, you cited a lot of stuff, a lot of peer-reviewed articles.
yeah, she complained that I cite. And she didn't cite anything. It's just conjecture on her part.
Yeah. So like that's one thing I appreciate. Also, I appreciate how you sectioned it out on in a PDF format because I use the Adobe Read Out Loud feature.
Oh yeah.
And you sectioned it out perfectly. That's very rare.
What do you mean by section out? Is
So,
it the grammar?
No, like the paragraphs. So I can click on a paragraph and it'll read that paragraph. Adobe Reader will read the paragraph.
Yeah, but that I'm trained, like if I'm in academia and I have to write papers, you know, I mean I'm writing, say for example, I'm writing Bible studies, and
right. Well,
it's just common knowledge just to do that, do it that way. Like it's neat and clean, and you know.
And I don't. What I'm saying is like I don't get that opportunity with other peer-reviewed articles. So when I click on other PDFs, it'll try to read the entire article in one long run.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So if I click on anything else and I click back, I have to listen to the whole thing again.
I see.
So that's just a little thing.
Yeah, I think that's just lucky, because some papers don't actually have a space, so
Right.
they will. You can see it designated as a new paragraph, but they don't space those paragraphs. So, and I think what the software does is it treats that as a very big, like, space bar, not an enter key space. And yeah, that's probably why it keeps reading.
Right. Yeah, and when you click on a paragraph, it'll one big section.
Right.
Anyways, that's all I had to say about that.
Did you learn anything from the content?
General, I always learn stuff reading your stuff. I'm always learning, and it's a perpetual merry-go-round of learning. So
Trust me, I'm learning as well. Okay, I'm not the architect.
I mean, and this is something like I've enjoyed over the past couple of years. Just every day, just looking forward to new ideas and content. Your stuff, Iser stuff, Hughes stuff, NT Wright, all these guys. It's just fascinating how much bigger the rabbit hole goes.
Yeah.
I need to.
Keep tabs on the Revelation study I'm writing. That's my new project at the moment.
Right.
And Hound actually did a brilliant job reminding me about the council scene with respect to the Sanhedrin, like the parallelism of how he had the council of the Sanhedrin and how that matches the 70 nations and the elders in the council, the way they are positioned, especially again if you're tracing it back to the Qumran community, how their court system was positioned. Everything just literally is like an onion layer. You keep peeling the layers, and it's like, wow, then you can make this connection and that connection.
So yeah, the